The whale was weakened, possibly due to a combination of factors that needed to be investigated. As the children continued their dedicated work of bringing in buckets of seawater, their little figures forming a human chain between the ocean and the whale, the adults gathered to discuss the best rescue strategy. Matthew, with his decades of experience at sea, offered valuable insights into local currents and the best time to attempt the operation to return the whale to deep water. The rhythmic sound of the whale's breathing created an almost hypnotic atmosphere on the beach. Each exhalation through the blowhole was accompanied by attentive and worried looks. Clara knew that time was running out. The longer the animal remained stranded, the less its chances of survival would be. The pressure of its own weight on its internal organs could cause irreversible damage. The community of Porto Azul demonstrated touching solidarity. Donna Maria, the owner of the local restaurant, organized a team to provide water and food to the volunteers. So Jorge, the carpenter, brought boards and tools that could be useful in the rescue operation. Each resident found a way to contribute, transforming the challenge into a true collective effort. Hours passed, and the Institute team worked methodically to assess the whale's physical condition. Blood samples were collected, body temperature was constantly monitored, and breathing patterns were recorded. Clara assisted with each procedure, her experience with cetaceans proving invaluable. The presence of excessive barnacles indicated that the animal had lost its swimming speed some time ago, possibly due to some as-yet unidentified illness or injury. The rescue plan began to take shape. It would be necessary not only to return the whale to the sea, but also to ensure that it was strong enough to swim on its own. The team discussed the possibility of administering vitamins and antibiotics before the operation, a decision that needed to be made with extreme caution, considering the animal's weakened state. The children, even the youngest, seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. Their normally happy and carefree faces wore serious expressions as they continued their mission to keep the whale hydrated. One little girl, no more than 6 years old, whispered to Clara that she had given the whale a name. Hope. The name spread quickly among those present, giving an even more personal touch to the rescue mission. The afternoon wore on, and with it grew the urgency to act. The tide would begin to rise in a few hours, offering a window of opportunity for the rescue operation. Clara gathered everyone involved for a final briefing, emphasizing the importance of each role in the upcoming operation. Determination shone in the eyes of everyone present, united by the desire to save this magnificent creature that fate had placed in their path. The sun began its descent into the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, while the team finalized preparations for the crucial moment that was approaching. The whale's breathing, still strong and regular, seemed to lull everyone into the same rhythm, as if nature and humanity were, at that moment, perfectly synchronized in a common goal. The air on the beach was thick with a mixture of anxiety and determination as the complex rescue operation unfolded under the afternoon sky. The massive humpback whale, now surrounded by strategically placed buoys, looked like a living island floating on the damp sand. The colorful buoys contrasted with its dark skin, creating a surreal scene that drew the gaze of everyone present. Clara observed every movement with the precision of a conductor conducting a vital orchestra, where every wrong note could mean the failure of the mission. The Institute's veterinarian administered the sedative with steady hands, his precise actions demonstrating years of experience with marine mammals. The moment of injection was followed by a tense silence, broken only by the soft sound of the waves and the whale's deep breathing. Clara counted the seconds in her head, her heart beating in time with the waves lapping the sand on the beach. The divers, dressed in their wetsuits, moved gracefully around the whale's immense body. Their experienced hands worked tirelessly to remove the barnacles that had accumulated like small fortresses on the animal's skin. Each barnacle removed represented a small victory, a step towards the freedom of this majestic creature. The work was meticulous and required patience. Any sudden movement could injure the whale's sensitive skin or cause unnecessary stress. Mateus and other local fishermen remained alert, their experienced eyes fixed on the horizon, monitoring the changes in the tide and sea conditions. The morning sun bathed the coast of Porto Azul with its golden light as Clara watched the imposing humpback whale stretched out on the white sand of the northern cove. The marine biologist's heart was beating fast, not only from the race to get there, but from the gravity of the situation that presented itself before her experienced eyes. The creature, a magnificent specimen that should have been navigating the deep waters of the ocean, was now vulnerable, its heavy breathing evidencing the effort to stay alive. The local fishermen, men and women who knew the sea like the back of their hands, formed a respectful circle around the stranded cetacean. Their sun-tanned faces revealed a mixture of concern and reverence for this gentle giant of the seas. Matthew, the fisherman who had alerted Clara, stood nearby, his calloused hands restless, eager to help in any way he could. Clara began to organize a plan of action, her scientific mind working quickly as she assessed the situation. The barnacles covering the whale's body told a silent story of suffering and disorientation. They were much more numerous than usual, suggesting that the animal had been weakened for some time, unable to maintain its usual speed in the ocean waters. The boy who had asked about the whale's life remained there, his eyes fixed on the gigantic marine mammal. Clara noticed how his small hands clenched into fists, an unconscious display of childlike determination. She recognized in him the same fascination that had led her, years ago, to dedicate her life to the study and preservation of these magnificent beings. The tide was slowly beginning to rise, and Clara knew they needed to take advantage of this natural movement of the ocean. She quickly organized a team of fishermen, assigning tasks and explaining the importance of keeping the whale's skin moisturized while they worked. Buckets of seawater were constantly thrown over the animal, creating a rhythmic sound that blended with the sound of the waves. More people began to arrive at the beach, attracted by the news that was spreading quickly through the small coastal town. Clara watched as the community spontaneously came together around this marine creature in distress. Residents brought wet towels, others offered their boats to help when it was time to guide the whale back to the deep sea. Time passed like a sea current, at once slow and inexorable. The sun rose in the sky, and sweat ran down the faces of the volunteers who took turns caring for the whale. Clara constantly monitored the animal's vital signs, noting with relief that, despite the stress of the situation, he remained stable. As the tide rose, attempts to reposition the whale began. It was delicate and dangerous work. A single sudden movement of the tail could seriously injure someone. Clara coordinated the efforts with surgical precision, her calm but firm voice guiding the volunteers' every action. The water began to cover more and more of the whale's body, and Clara felt the crucial moment approaching. The animal began to move gently, as if recognizing the arrival of its natural element. The fishermen, in their small boats, positioned themselves strategically to guide the cetacean back to the deep waters. When the whale finally managed to free itself from the sand, a collective sigh of relief echoed across the beach. The animal slid slowly into deeper water, its dark silhouette standing out against the blue of the ocean. Clara watched, her heart clenching with emotion as the humpback blew water through its blowhole in a gesture that seemed to be one of gratitude. The boy who had previously asked about the whale's life was now smiling, his eyes shining with tears of joy. Clara placed her hand on his shoulder, silently sharing in this moment of triumph. The beach slowly emptied, but something had changed in Blueport that day. A deeper connection had formed between the community and the ocean that was their home, reminding everyone of their shared responsibility to protect the creatures that inhabit its waters. The arrival of the team from the Instituto Oceano Azul brought new energy to Porto Azul Beach, where dozens of residents were already mobilizing around the stranded whale. The sun was now high in the sky, and the makeshift tent made of tarps and bamboo offered vital protection for the immense marine mammal. Clara watched the animal's every move closely, her biologist heart torn between professional concern and the emotional involvement that inevitably arose in situations like that. The Institute's specialists brought in sophisticated equipment to monitor the whale's vital signs, complementing the initial work of Clara and the locals. The team's coordinator, Dr. Ricardo, a veterinarian specializing in marine mammals, confirmed Clara's suspicions. The barnacles were not just an inconvenience, but a symptom of a larger problem. Their deep voices occasionally cut through the air with warnings about currents and water movements, valuable information for the success of the operation. The traditional wisdom of the seamen blended harmoniously with the scientific knowledge of the rescue team. The children of Porto Azul, still engaged in their mission to bring water, had created their own relay system, demonstrating an organization that surprised the adults. Their small, focused faces carried an unusual seriousness. For their age, as if they perfectly understood the importance of their contribution to that collective effort. The oximeter attached to the whale emitted regular beeps, a constant reminder that a precious life was at stake. The medical team closely monitored every change in the whale's vital signs, ready to intervene at the slightest sign of stress. Clara alternated her gaze between the monitors and the whale's body, searching for signs the devices could not detect, using her expertise to read the subtle changes in the animal's behavior. As the hours passed, the pile of removed barnacles grew on the sand as a silent testament to the team's hard work. Each piece removed revealed more of the whale's smooth, dark skin, as if they were gradually freeing it from a heavy, unwanted armor. The strong smell of the sea mingled with the characteristic odor of barnacles and the sweat of the workers, creating a unique atmosphere that would forever be etched in the memory of everyone present. The sunlight was beginning to change, painting the sky with softer tones, when Clara noticed a subtle change in the whale's behavior. Its movements, although limited by sedation, seemed more fluid, as if the animal was beginning to feel the benefits of having its barnacles removed. This observation brought new life to the exhausted team, who had been working tirelessly for hours. Donna Maria arrived with another round of fresh water and sandwiches for the volunteers, her kind face carrying an encouraging smile. The community continued to rally, each person finding their own way to contribute to the success of the operation. Some older residents shared stories of other marine animal rescues, creating a sense of connection between Porto Azul's past and present. The sun was beginning its descent towards the horizon as the last significant area of barnacles was removed. Clara ran her hand gently over the whale's now clean skin, feeling the unique texture of this magnificent creature beneath her fingers. A wave of emotion washed over her, a mixture of relief and hope. The first phase of the operation had been completed successfully, but there was still much work to be done. The real challenge, returning the whale to its natural habitat, was yet to come. And with night approaching, time was becoming an increasingly crucial factor. Eyes met between the team members, silently communicating the understanding that they were about to enter the most critical phase of the rescue. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but also the strength that came from the union of so many people around a common goal. The next phase would require even more concentration and teamwork, and she knew that each person there was prepared to give their all to ensure that this story had a happy ending. Darkness was advancing over Blue Harbor like a heavy blanket, bringing with it dark clouds that loomed on the horizon in menacing formations. The wind, which had previously been just a gentle breeze, quickly gained strength, whipping the canvas of the makeshift tent and kicking up swirls of sand across the beach. The sudden change in weather sent chills down Clara's spine, as she watched apprehensively as the waves grew in intensity and size. The rescue team worked against time, their movements now more urgent in the dim light that preceded the storm. The buoys that kept the whale stable began to swing more vigorously, and the sound of the sea changed from a constant whisper to a menacing roar. The animal, still under the effects of sedation, remained relatively calm, but Clara could hear subtle changes in its breathing, as if it too sensed the approaching storm. The first drops of rain began to fall, thick and heavy, marking the sand with small dark craters. Mateus, with all his experience as a fisherman, recognized the danger, signs that the sky presented. His words of warning carried the weight of decades of observing the behavior of the sea, and his concern was more than justified. The waves were already breaking with force much closer to where the whale was, and the seawater was splashing over the team with increasing frequency. Clara felt her heart hammering in her chest as she quickly assessed the situation. Years of study and practical experience with cetacean rescue had not fully prepared her for a scenario like this. The decision to continue the work was risky, but the alternative, abandoning the operation, could have meant certain death for the whale. The animal, already weakened by the stranding and the barnacle removal process, would need all the help it could get to survive the stormy night. The members of the Instituto Oceano Azul moved with renewed determination, adjusting equipment and reinforcing the moorings of the buoys. The rain gradually increased in intensity, making the work an even greater challenge. Soaked clothes weighed down the tired bodies of the team, but no one showed any signs of giving up. The commitment to the life of this marine creature outweighed any personal discomfort. Lightning began to streak across the sky in the distance, its momentary flashes illuminating the scene like flashbulbs, revealing tense expressions on the faces of those present. The thunder that followed, getting closer and closer, made the children, who still insisted on helping, instinctively shrink back. Clara instructed them to be taken to a safe place, although their little hearts protested against being moved away. The operation continued under increasingly difficult conditions. The divers, now working in shorter shifts, braved the increasing force of the waves to finish removing the last of the barnacles. Their precise movements, even under such circumstances, demonstrated admirable professionalism. The murky water made visibility difficult, but their experienced hands found their way across the whale's skin as if guided by an invisible map. Mateus organized a group of fishermen to form a human barrier against the most aggressive waves, using their combined experience to anticipate and minimize the impact of the water on the work area. Their robust bodies, accustomed to the harsh elements of the sea, served as the last line of defense between the raging ocean and the medical team who continued to monitor the whale's vital signs. Clara alternated her attention between the animal, the team, and the darkening sky. Every decision they made at that moment could have irreversible consequences. The storm seemed to mock their efforts, but it also served as a reminder of the relentless force of nature they were working so hard to protect. The wind now carried a constant howl, mixing with the sound of the waves in a stormy symphony that made communication between the team increasingly difficult. Night was fast approaching, and with it the certainty that the next few hours would be crucial. The emergency lights were turned on, creating a circle of artificial light amidst the growing darkness. The rain continued to fall relentlessly, but there was something in the collective determination of this group that not even the fiercest storm could shake. Clara knew that they were about to face one of the longest nights of their lives, but she was also certain that no one there would give up until they saw this magnificent creature safely return to its home in the depths of the ocean. The storm continued to batter the coast of Porto Azul, but there was a different energy in the air when the last barnacle was removed from the humpback whale's body. The moment so eagerly awaited by everyone arrived amidst the rain that fell, mercilessly, as if the sky itself shared in the emotion of that moment. Clara, soaked and exhausted, felt her heart race as she noticed the smooth and graceful movement of the immense animal, a gesture that seemed to carry all the gratitude in the world. The improvised spotlights created a shadow theater on the dark beach, illuminating the anxious expressions of the residents who remained, defying the storm to witness this historic moment. The whale's breathing, previously heavy and labored, now flowed with a more natural cadence, like a song that had finally found its correct rhythm. The sound mixed with the roar of the sea and the drumming of the rain, creating a unique symphony of nature. The team from the Instituto Oceano Azul worked with meticulous precision to guide the animal toward deeper waters. The ropes and buoys that had previously served to stabilize the whale were removed one by one in a coordinated ballet of precise movements. Mateus and the other fishermen, who were deeply familiar with the local currents, guided the operation with firm gestures and words of encouragement, their voices almost lost in the gale. As the seawater wrapped itself around the whale's body, a palpable shift in its energy could be felt. Every inch it moved toward its natural habitat seemed to bring a little more life back into it. Divers swam alongside it, their underwater flashlights creating beams of light that danced in the murky waters, guiding the whale's path back to freedom. The moment of truth arrived when the depth of the water finally allowed the whale to float completely. And then it happened, in a movement that took everyone by surprise. It slammed its immense tail against the surface of the sea. The water exploded in all directions, creating an additional rain that mixed with the tears of joy that were already streaming down the faces of those present. That powerful movement was more than just a simple tail slap. It was a declaration of life, a cry of freedom. The silence that followed was almost sacred. For a few seconds, not even the storm seemed to make a sound. All eyes were fixed on the spot where the whale had submerged, hoping, praying, hoping that this would not be a final goodbye. And then, as if answering their silent prayers, it emerged further away, its dark body cutting through the surface of the water with an elegance that seemed impossible for a creature of its size. The applause began timidly, almost hesitantly, but soon turned into an explosion of joy that echoed across the beach. People hugged, cried, laughed, all the emotions, pent up during the long hours of work, finally finding their outlet. Children jumped and screamed with joy, their faces lit up with a pure happiness that only childhood knows. Clara stood still for a moment, letting her tears mingle with the still falling rain. In her years of working with marine mammals, she had participated in many rescues, but something about this one was special. Maybe it was the unlikely coming together of an entire community. Maybe it was the struggle against the harsh conditions, or maybe it was simply the look in that whale's eyes. A look that, for a brief moment, had connected two completely different worlds. The night was advancing, but no one seemed willing to leave the beach. The whale remained visible, swimming in ever-widening circles, as if testing its new freedom. Each time its blowhole expelled water, a small celebration was renewed among those present. The storm was beginning to show signs of truce, as if its function of testing the determination of that group had already been fulfilled. That night in Porto Azul would be remembered for a long time, not only for the successful rescue of a humpback whale, but for the example of how a community could come together for a cause greater than itself. Clara knew that each person there would forever carry a part of that story, a memory that would be told and retold through the generations, keeping alive the spirit of unity and love for nature that had made that miracle possible. The days that followed the dramatic rescue of the humpback whale brought a new energy to Porto Azul. The small coastal town, which had always lived in harmony with the sea, seemed to have discovered an even deeper connection with the waters that surrounded it. Clara spent hours in her makeshift laboratory at the Institute, her attentive eyes fixed on the monitor that displayed the cetacean's movements through the tracker installed during the rescue. Each ping on the system was like a small gift, a confirmation that all the joint effort had truly been worth it. The tracking device sent precise data on the animal's speed, depth, and direction, allowing the team to follow its recovery in real time. The numbers didn't lie. Day after day, its swimming speed increased and its diving patterns became more consistent, indicating a gradual return to normality. Clara watched with satisfaction as the whale set a definitive course southward, following the ancient call that guided these magnificent creatures on their eternal journey through the warm ocean waters. The walls of the lab were now decorated with photographs of the rescue, each image telling a different part of the extraordinary story. There were pictures of the community working together in the face of the storm, of the children forming their human chain to carry water, of the fishermen using their expertise to protect the operation from the roaring waves. Each photograph was a silent testament to the power of cooperation and compassion. Messages arrived daily at the Institute, filling Clara's inbox with heartfelt stories and gratitude. Residents who had previously viewed the ocean only as a source of livelihood through fishing now shared a deeper perspective on marine life. Donna Maria, the owner of the local restaurant, wrote about how her grandchildren now spent hours on the beach, not only playing, but also watching closely for any sign of marine life that needed help. The little boy who had first asked the question about the whale, "Is it alive?" now visited the Institute regularly, full of curiosity about marine biology. His eyes lit up as Clara explained the different types of whales that visited these waters, their migratory routes, and their unique behaviors. It was as if a seed of environmental awareness had been planted in that young mind, promising to blossom into something even greater in the future. Matthias and the other fishermen began holding regular meetings to discuss ways to make their fishing practices more sustainable. The rescue had awakened in them a new sensitivity to the delicate balance of the marine ecosystem. They shared stories of encounters with other whales during their fishing trips, now seeing these encounters not as interferences in their work, but as privileged moments of connection with the ocean. The story of the rescue spread beyond Porto Azul, attracting the attention of environmentalists and researchers from other regions. Clara received invitations to share the experience at conferences and workshops, but she felt that the true value of the event lay in the subtle changes she observed in her own community. The way people now stopped to look at the sea more closely, how conversations in the town square often returned to the topic of marine conservation, how children included whales and dolphins in their school drawings. The Instituto Oceano Azul experienced a significant increase in the number of local volunteers. People of all ages and backgrounds volunteered to participate in conservation projects, beach monitoring, and educational programs. Clara saw this as one of the most important legacies of the rescue, the transformation of a community of passive observers into active stewards of the marine environment. The tracker data continued to tell a success story. The whale had joined a group of other humpbacks on their seasonal migration, their routes forming graceful patterns on the digital maps Clara studied. Each more vigorous movement, each deeper dive, was confirmation that the animal had indeed regained its strength and vitality. It was as if they could feel, through the numbers and graphs, the whale's joy at being an integral part of its group. Again, the barnacles removed during the rescue were preserved and became part of an educational exhibit at the Institute, along with explanatory panels on how these organisms can affect the health of large cetaceans. Schools in the region began organizing regular visits, transforming the rescue experience into a valuable tool for environmental education. Clara watched with delight as children flocked to the exhibits, their young minds absorbing knowledge that could shape their future relationships with the environment. On her quieter evenings, Clara liked to walk along the beach where it had all happened. The site of the stranding, now marked only by memory, had become a sort of unofficial shrine. Locals and visitors alike would stop there to gaze out at the ocean, some leaving small offerings of flowers or simply sitting to reflect. It was as if this patch of sand still held the energy of that extraordinary day, a constant reminder of what can be accomplished when people come together for a cause greater than themselves. The rescue's success also brought practical changes to the town. The city implemented a more robust coastal monitoring program, and fishermen established an early warning system to spot and report marine life in distress. The community had learned that their connection to the ocean went far beyond mere physical proximity. It was a shared responsibility, a commitment to preserving life in all its forms. Clara knew that the experience had changed not only the whale, but every person involved in the rescue. The monitor in her lab continued to show the animal's graceful movements in its distant waters. But the real miracle was right there, on the streets of Porto Azul, in the smiles of the children, in the conversations of the fishermen, in the new awareness that had awakened in every heart. It was a new beginning not only for the whale, but for an entire community that had rediscovered its own humanity through the act of helping a creature in need. The autumn afternoon in Porto Azul was exceptionally calm when Mateus's phone call came, bringing with it news that would make Clara's heart leap inside her chest. The sun painted the sky with soft shades of orange and pink, creating a perfect backdrop for what was about to happen. Clara barely managed to hang up the phone before she started running towards the beach, her hurried steps kicking up small clouds of sand as her mind tried to process the magnitude of the moment that was about to happen. Upon reaching the beach, Clara found Mateus already surrounded by a small group of locals, all pointing excitedly out to sea. The elderly fisherman had a smile that seemed to light up his sun-tanned face, and his eyes shone with an almost childlike excitement. A few feet from shore, breaking the calm surface of the ocean, was she, the same humpback whale they had rescued months earlier, recognizable by the unique patterns on her tail that the team had documented during the rescue. But what made Clara's hands go up to her mouth in surprise was not just the animal's return, but the small figure swimming beside it, a calf that could not have been more than a few weeks old. The baby whale followed its mother's every move with the clumsy grace typical of humpback calves, occasionally breaking the surface with clumsy leaps that drew gasps of admiration from the spectators who had begun to gather on the beach. News of the whale's return spread quickly through the small coastal town, like a wind carrying seeds of hope. Within minutes, dozens of residents began arriving on the beach, many still in their work clothes, others hurriedly bringing their cameras and binoculars. The children who had participated in the rescue months earlier were the first to recognize the animal, pointing excitedly and reminiscing aloud about the dramatic moments of that stormy day. Clara watched the scene with a mixture of emotion and scientific admiration. The calf appeared healthy and well-developed, a living testament to the fact that the rescue had not only saved a life, but also made it possible to create another. The marine biologist noticed how the mother whale moved with confidence and strength, with no sign of the difficulties she had faced before. The barnacles that had once covered her body had given way to smooth, healthy skin, and her movements were graceful and precise. Donna Maria, who had fed the entire team during the rescue, appeared with a basket of freshly baked bread, transforming the occasion into a small, impromptu community celebration. People shared not only food, but also their memories of that historic day, each recounting their part in the story with renewed pride and emotion. The aroma of fresh bread mingled with the sea breeze, creating an almost magical atmosphere of gathering and celebration. The little boy who had named the whale Hope during the rescue was now sitting on the sand, frantically drawing in his notebook the scene unfolding before him. His small hands tried to capture not only the shape of the animals, but also the joy that radiated from everyone present. Clara approached him and noticed that in his drawing, the whale had a smile, a childlike and pure representation of the happiness that everyone felt at that moment. As the sun began its descent below the horizon, the golden light created dancing reflections on the surface of the sea, as if nature itself were celebrating this moment. The whales continued their aquatic ballet, occasionally coming closer to shore, as if to show their gratitude to the community that had made this moment possible. The calf seemed especially curious, often surfacing closer to the beach, eliciting waves of ohs and ahs from the onlookers. Mateus, with his seafaring wisdom, commented on how rare it was to see humpback whales come so close to shore at that time of year. It was as if the mother whale had made a special detour on her migratory route just to show her calf to its rescuers. The old fisherman spoke with a voice choked with emotion, his words carrying the weight of someone who deeply understands the mysteries and grandeur of the ocean. Clara knew that this moment would be immortalized not only in the photographs that were taken endlessly, but mainly in the hearts of each person present. The return of the whale with her calf was more than just a visit. It was a living symbol of hope, tangible proof that small acts of kindness and courage can have repercussions far beyond what we can imagine. It was a reminder that the sea, despite its immensity and mysteries, is not so far away from us, and that the connection between the beings that inhabit this planet is deeper and more meaningful than we often realize. As the shadows lengthened on the shore and the sky turned to dusk, the whales slowly began to move away toward the horizon. The community stood there in reverent silence, watching until the last ripples on the surface of the sea signaled their departure. But everyone knew that this story did not end there. It would live on in every wave that broke on the shore, in every sunset over the ocean, in every story told to future generations about the day Blue Harbor learned that impossible is just a word for those who lack the courage to dream and act.